The girl adopted the ugliest dog. Everyone laughed. But what happened next left them speechless. The fluorescent lights of the city animal shelter hummed overhead, casting a sterile glow on the rows of cages. Each held a pair of eyes, some hopeful, some resigned, all pleading for a second chance. 11-year-old Lily pressed her face against the cool metal bars, her gaze scanning the furry occupants. She'd been coming here with her dad every Saturday for the past month, ever since they'd had to say goodbye to their beloved golden retriever, Buddy. Lily missed Buddy terribly. The house felt empty without the thump of his tail against the furniture, the playful nudges of his wet nose. Her dad, John, felt the loss too, but he was hesitant about getting another dog. "It's too soon, Lily Pad," he'd say, his voice heavy with grief. "We need time." But Lily didn't want time. She wanted a furry companion to fill the void in her heart, a friend to share her secrets with. And so, every Saturday, she'd drag her reluctant father to the shelter, hoping to find the perfect match. Today, however, her search seemed futile. The shelter was overflowing with adorable puppies, fluffy kittens, and even a chinchilla with an endearingly twitchy nose. But none of them sparked that special connection she was looking for. Just as she was about to give up, a low growl caught her attention. It came from the very last cage in the row, tucked away in a shadowy corner. Lily peered inside, her nose wrinkling at the pungent odor of disinfectant and something else, something distinctly unpuppy-like. And then she saw him. He was a dog, or at least she assumed he was. His breed was impossible to determine, a chaotic mix of indeterminate genes that resulted in a creature that could only be described as unfortunate. One ear flopped over at an odd angle, the other stood erect like a misplaced antenna. His fur was a patchy mess of brown and gray, with a smattering of white that looked suspiciously like a misplaced skunk stripe. And his face, well, his face was a masterpiece of asymmetry, with a crooked jaw, misaligned eyes, and a nose that seemed to have been sculpted from Play-Doh by a toddler. He was, without a doubt, the ugliest dog Lily had ever seen. And yet, something about him tugged at her heartstrings. Perhaps it was the way his tail thumped weakly against the concrete floor, or the hopeful glint in his mismatched eyes. Whatever it was, Lily felt an undeniable connection to this misfit creature. "Dad," she whispered, tugging at her father's sleeve. "Look!" John peered into the cage, his eyebrows shooting up in surprise. "Oh my," he muttered, clearly at a loss for words. "Can we get him?" Lily pleaded, her eyes wide with hope. John hesitated. He'd been hoping Lily would find a nice, well-behaved Labrador or maybe a fluffy poodle. This creature was something else entirely. "Lily Pad?" he began cautiously. "Are you sure? Well, he's not exactly. He's perfect." Lily interrupted, her voice filled with conviction. "He needs us, Dad. Can't you see?" John sighed. He couldn't deny the pleading look in his daughter's eyes, nor the spark of joy that had reignited in her face. He knew that this dog, as unconventional as he was, might be just what they both needed to heal their broken hearts. "All right," he conceded, a reluctant smile spreading across his face. "Let's go talk to someone about adopting him." As they walked towards the shelter office, Lily couldn't contain her excitement. She didn't care that the other dogs were prettier or fluffier or more well-behaved. She had found her dog, the one who needed her as much as she needed him. And she knew, deep in her heart, that this was just the beginning of a truly amazing adventure. The shelter staff seemed almost surprised that someone wanted to adopt old Scarface, as they affectionately called him. Lily, however, insisted on renaming him Champ. "He's a champion for surviving this long," she declared, her chin held high. Champ's first few days at home were a whirlwind of adjustment. He was house-trained, surprisingly, but his manners left much to be desired. He chewed on furniture, barked at squirrels with an alarming intensity, and had a peculiar habit of tilting his head and sneezing whenever he was confused. John, ever the pragmatist, suggested obedience school. "It's for his own good, Lily," he explained, "and ours." Lily, though initially reluctant, agreed. She wanted Champ to be happy and well-adjusted, even if it meant enduring the judgmental stares of other dog owners with their perfectly groomed poodles and obedient Labradors. Obedience school was a disaster. Champ, it turned out, had a mind of his own. He refused to sit, stay, or heel. He chased his tail with reckless abandon, barked at the instructor, and even attempted to steal treats from the other dogs. The other dog owners, with their perfectly behaved pets, exchanged amused glances and whispered behind their hands. Lily felt her cheeks burn with shame. "He's hopeless?" the instructor declared, throwing his hands up in exasperation. "I've never encountered a dog so unruly." Lily, tears welling up in her eyes, scooped Champ into her arms. "He's not hopeless," she mumbled, burying her face in his scraggly fur. "He's just special." As they walked home, Lily felt a wave of despair wash over her. Maybe everyone was right. Maybe Champ was too wild, too untamable. Maybe she should have listened to her dad and chosen a more conventional dog. Champ, sensing her distress, licked her face with his long, slobbery tongue. Lily giggled, the tension easing slightly. "You're a mess, you know that?" she said, scratching him behind his floppy ear. That night, as Lily lay in bed, she couldn't shake the feeling of failure. She'd wanted to give Champ a better life, but so far, she'd only managed to make things worse. She closed her eyes, tears slipping down her cheeks. Suddenly, a loud crash from downstairs jolted her awake. Her heart pounding, she crept out of bed and tiptoed towards the stairs. The sound of shattering glass and her father's startled yell sent a chill down her spine. "Dad?" she called out, her voice trembling. "Stay there, Lily," her father shouted back. "There's someone in the house." Lily froze. Fear gripped her, paralyzing her. She could hear her father struggling with the intruder, the sounds of a scuffle echoing through the house. Then, a blood-curdling scream pierced the silence. Driven by a surge of adrenaline, Lily raced down the stairs. She burst into the living room, her eyes widening in horror. Her father lay on the floor, blood oozing from a gash on his forehead. A masked figure loomed over him, a glint of metal flashing in his hand. Before Lily could even scream, a furry blur launched itself at the intruder. Champ, teeth bared and growling ferociously, attacked the man with a ferocity she had never seen before. The intruder, caught off guard, stumbled backward, dropping the knife. He yelled in pain as Champ's teeth sank into his arm. Taking advantage of the distraction, John scrambled to his feet. He grabbed a nearby vase and swung it at the intruder, who, now bleeding and disoriented, fled through the shattered window. Lily rushed to her father's side, her heart pounding. "Dad, are you okay?" John, his face pale and contorted in pain, managed a weak smile. "I think so, Lily Pad. Thanks to Champ." Lily looked at her dog, her eyes filled with gratitude and awe. Champ, panting heavily, wagged his tail and licked her hand. In that moment, she realized that Champ wasn't just a misfit. He was a hero. He had saved her father's life. The arrival of the police and paramedics brought a flurry of activity to their quiet suburban street. Neighbors gathered on their lawns, whispering and pointing at the shattered window and the flashing lights. Lily, wrapped in a blanket and clutching Champ tightly, recounted the terrifying events to a kind-faced police officer. News of the attempted burglary and Champ's heroic intervention spread like wildfire through their small community. The local newspaper ran a front-page story with the headline "Ugly Dog, Beautiful Act," featuring a picture of Champ looking particularly unkempt and proud. The story was picked up by the local TV station, and soon Champ was a local celebrity. People stopped Lily and John on the street, showering Champ with praise and treats. The once shunned dog was now the town hero, his unconventional looks adding to his charm. Even the obedient school instructor, his face flushed with embarrassment, offered Champ a free lifetime membership. Lily basked in the glow of Champ's newfound fame. She felt a surge of pride every time someone patted Champ on the head or told him what a good boy he was. It was as if Champ's heroism had not only saved her father but had also redeemed him in the eyes of the world. However, the sudden attention brought unexpected challenges. People constantly wanted to pet Champ, take his picture, and tell him their life stories. Champ, though initially enjoying the attention, soon grew overwhelmed. He started hiding under furniture, barking at strangers, and refusing to go for walks. Lily noticed the change in Champ's behavior. She realized that the constant attention, though well-intentioned, was stressing him out. She started turning down interview requests, politely declining photo opportunities, and creating a safe space for Champ at home where he could relax without being bombarded by admirers. One afternoon, a representative from a national dog food company approached Lily and John with an offer. They wanted Champ to be the face of their new Hero Dog campaign. The offer included a lucrative contract, a lifetime supply of dog food, and the promise of national fame. John was ecstatic. "This is incredible, Lily," he exclaimed. "Champ could be a star." Lily, however, was hesitant. She thought about the stress Champ had endured with the local attention. Could he handle the pressure of a national campaign? Would he be happy being paraded around, posing for photos and attending promotional events? "I don't know, Dad," she said, her brow furrowed. "I don't want to put Champ through that." John, sensing her concern, placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Lilypad will make sure Champ is comfortable. We'll have a say in how they use his image, and we can always pull out if it gets too much for him." Lily thought about it. She knew the money would be helpful, and the exposure could raise awareness for shelter dogs. But most importantly, she thought about Champ. Maybe this was his chance to shine, to show the world that even the most unconventional dog could be a hero. "Okay, Dad," she said, a smile spreading across her face. "Let's do it." And so, Champ's journey from unloved shelter dog to national hero continued, taking him and Lily on an adventure beyond their wildest dreams. The Hero Dog campaign launched with a bang. Champ's face, with its endearingly crooked grin, was plastered on billboards, magazine covers, and TV commercials across the country. He even had his own social media pages, managed by a team of marketing professionals. Lily and John were swept up in a whirlwind of media appearances, interviews, and promotional events. Champ, to everyone's surprise, took to stardom like a duck to water. He seemed to relish the attention, posing for photos with a natural charisma that charmed even the most seasoned photographers. He even learned a few tricks, thanks to a patient animal trainer, and could now sit, stay, and even roll over on command most of the time. Lily, however, found the constant travel and public appearances exhausting. She missed her friends, her school, and her normal routine. She also worried about Champ. Despite his outward enthusiasm, she sensed a growing weariness in his eyes. He slept more, ate less, and seemed to have lost some of his playful spark. One evening, after a particularly grueling day of filming a commercial, Lily found Champ curled up in a corner of their hotel room, shivering despite the warm temperature. She knelt beside him, her heart aching. "Champ, what's wrong?" she whispered, stroking his fur. Champ whimpered softly, burying his head under her hand. Lily felt a wave of guilt wash over her. She had been so caught up in the excitement of the campaign that she had failed to notice how it was affecting him. "We're going home, Champ," she said, her voice firm with resolve. "We're done with this." John, though initially disappointed, understood. He had also noticed Champ's declining health and spirits. He canceled the remaining promotional events and arranged for them to fly back home the next day. Back in their familiar surroundings, Champ slowly started to recover. He regained his appetite, his playful energy returned, and the sparkle in his eyes reignited. Lily, relieved and happy to be home, resumed her normal life, attending school and spending her free time playing with Champ in the park. The Hero Dog campaign continued without Champ, featuring a generic golden retriever instead. But Champ's legacy lived on. His story had touched the hearts of people across the country, inspiring countless families to adopt shelter dogs, regardless of their looks or imperfections. Lily, though no longer in the spotlight, continued to receive letters and emails from people all over the world, thanking her and Champ for their inspiring story. She realized that Champ's true heroism wasn't about fame or fortune, but about the unconditional love and loyalty he had shown her and her father. And as she watched Champ chasing squirrels in the backyard, his crooked grin wider than ever, she knew that their adventure was far from over. They had found each other, and that was all that mattered. Life settled back into a comfortable rhythm. Champ, no longer a national icon, was content to be just a regular dog, albeit one with a remarkable past. He spent his days napping in sunbeams, chasing squirrels with renewed vigor, and accompanying Lily on her paper route. One crisp autumn afternoon, while walking Champ through the park, Lily noticed a familiar figure sitting on a bench. It was Mrs. Henderson, an elderly woman from their neighborhood, known for her love of cats and her general aversion to anything canine. Lily was surprised to see her with a dog, especially one that looked so familiar. The dog was a scruffy terrier mix, with mismatched ears and a crooked jaw. He was undeniably ugly, but in that endearing way that only a truly unique dog could be. Lily couldn't help but feel a sense of kinship with the woman and her peculiar pet. As Lily approached, Mrs. Henderson looked up, a flicker of recognition in her eyes. "Oh, hello, Lily," she said, her voice surprisingly warm. "This is Buster." Buster, upon seeing Champ, let out a joyful bark and wagged his tail furiously. Champ, in turn, responded with an enthusiastic sniff and a playful bow. The two dogs, despite their unconventional appearances, seemed to recognize a kindred spirit in each other. "He looks a lot like Champ," Lily remarked, unable to contain her curiosity. Mrs. Henderson nodded, a wistful smile gracing her lips. "He does, doesn't he? I got him from the shelter a few weeks ago. They said he was a stray, found wandering the streets." Lily's heart skipped a beat. Could Buster be related to Champ? They shared so many physical similarities, and their instant connection was undeniable. She decided to voice her thoughts. "I wonder if they might be from the same litter," she said, her voice filled with excitement. Mrs. Henderson's eyes widened. "That's a thought. I suppose it's possible. They certainly seem to have a lot in common." The two of them spent the next hour chatting about their dogs, sharing stories and comparing their quirky personalities. Lily learned that Buster, like Champ, had a penchant for mischief and a stubborn streak a mile wide. But he was also incredibly loyal and affectionate, just like her own beloved dog. As Lily walked home, her mind raced with possibilities. Could Buster be Champ's brother? Or perhaps a cousin? The thought of Champ having a family member out there filled her with a sense of warmth and excitement. She couldn't wait to tell her dad and to explore this newfound connection. The next day, Lily convinced her dad to take Champ to the vet for a DNA test. She explained her encounter with Mrs. Henderson and Buster, and the uncanny resemblance between the two dogs. John, though initially skeptical, agreed to indulge his daughter's curiosity. The results of the DNA test arrived a few weeks later. Lily tore open the envelope, her hands trembling with anticipation. Her eyes scanned the document, and a gasp escaped her lips. The results confirmed her suspicions. Champ and Buster were indeed brothers, separated at birth and reunited by a chance encounter in the park. The news brought a wave of emotions over Lily: joy, excitement, and a touch of sadness for the years they had lost. But most of all, she felt a sense of gratitude for the incredible bond she shared with her extraordinary dog, a bond that had led her to this unexpected discovery. She knew that this was just another chapter in their amazing story, a story that was still being written. The revelation of Champ's long-lost brother brought a new wave of excitement to their lives. Lily and Mrs. Henderson arranged regular playdates for the two dogs, transforming the once peaceful park into a whirlwind of canine chaos. Champ and Buster, inseparable from the moment they were reunited, chased each other with reckless abandon, wrestled with joyful barks, and even seemed to communicate in a language only they understood. Lily and Mrs. Henderson, initially strangers, found themselves forging an unlikely friendship. They bonded over their shared love for their unconventional dogs, swapping stories of their mischievous antics and marveling at their unique personalities. Lily, an only child, found a surrogate grandmother in Mrs. Henderson, while the elderly woman, who had lived a solitary life for many years, discovered a renewed sense of purpose in her connection with Lily and her canine companions. One sunny afternoon, while watching the dogs frolic in the park, Mrs. Henderson turned to Lily with a thoughtful expression. "Lily, dear," she began, her voice gentle. "I've been meaning to talk to you about something important." Lily, sensing the seriousness in her tone, sat up straighter. "What is it, Mrs. Henderson?" "Well," Mrs. Henderson continued, her gaze fixed on the playing dogs, "I'm getting older, Lily, and while Buster brings me immense joy, I worry about what will happen to him when I'm gone." Lily's heart sank. She had grown fond of Mrs. Henderson and couldn't bear the thought of her being alone, or worse, of Buster ending up back in the shelter. "I wouldn't let that happen, Mrs. Henderson," Lily assured her, her voice filled with sincerity. "I love Buster, and I would take care of him as if he were my own." Mrs. Henderson smiled, her eyes twinkling with gratitude. "I know you would, dear, but I was hoping for something more permanent." Lily's brow furrowed in confusion. "What do you mean?" Mrs. Henderson took a deep breath. "Lily, would you consider becoming Buster's legal guardian? I've spoken to my lawyer, and I'd like to include him in my will, with you as his designated caregiver." Lily's eyes widened in surprise. She had never considered such a possibility, but the idea of officially welcoming Buster into her family filled her with warmth. She looked at Champ and Buster, their furry bodies intertwined in a playful embrace, and knew that this was the right thing to do. "Of course, Mrs. Henderson," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "I would be honored to be Buster's guardian." Mrs. Henderson beamed, tears welling up in her eyes. "Thank you, Lily. You've brought so much joy into my life, and I know you'll give Buster a wonderful home." From that day on, Buster became an official part of their family. He and Champ were inseparable, sharing a bed, food bowls, and even Lily's affections. John, initially hesitant about having two unconventional dogs, quickly warmed up to Buster, charmed by his goofy personality and gentle nature. Their home, once quiet and filled with the lingering sadness of Buddy's absence, was now a haven of canine chaos and unconditional love. Lily, surrounded by her two furry companions, felt a sense of completeness she had never known before. She had found her purpose in caring for these two extraordinary dogs, and she knew that their adventures together were far from over. Having two dogs certainly kept life interesting. The house was rarely quiet. The backyard resembled a battlefield after a particularly enthusiastic game of chase, and the laundry hamper overflowed with dog toys and muddy towels. But Lily wouldn't have it any other way. Champ and Buster brought a vibrancy to their lives that filled the void left by Buddy, and so much more. One day, a letter arrived addressed to Champ and Buster Hero Dogs. Lily, curious, opened it to find an invitation to a local dog show, specifically a celebration of rescue dogs. The letter detailed a special category for unconventional heroes, celebrating dogs who had overcome adversity or made a difference in their communities. It was clear that Champ's story, even after the national campaign had faded, still resonated with people. Lily was hesitant at first. She remembered how stressful the Hero Dog campaign had been for Champ, and she didn't want to put him through that again, especially now that he had Buster to consider. But then she thought about the message it would send, that every dog, no matter how they looked, deserved a loving home and a chance to shine. She discussed it with her dad, who, to her surprise, was enthusiastic. "It could be fun, Lilypad," he said. "And besides, those two rascals could use a bit of brushing up on their manners." So they decided to enter Champ and Buster in the dog show. They practiced basic commands, though Buster proved to be a particularly challenging student, preferring to chase butterflies than follow instructions. Lily even bought them matching bow ties, which they promptly tried to eat. The day of the dog show arrived, and the park was abuzz with excitement. Dogs of all shapes and sizes, from perfectly groomed poodles to scruffy mutts, paraded around with their proud owners. Lily, with Champ and Buster on their leashes, felt a familiar surge of nervousness. But this time it was different. This wasn't about fame or fortune. It was about celebrating the unique beauty of her unconventional heroes. The unconventional heroes category was the highlight of the show. Dogs with missing limbs, mismatched eyes, and scars from their past strutted their stuff with pride. The crowd roared with applause, recognizing the resilience and spirit of these amazing animals. When it was Champ and Buster's turn, Lily led them into the ring with a confident smile. Champ, remembering his brief stint as a celebrity, lapped up the attention, while Buster, overwhelmed by the crowd, tried to hide behind Lily's legs. But as Lily spoke about their story, about Champ's heroism and Buster's resilience, the audience fell silent. They listened intently, their hearts touched by the tale of two brothers, reunited by fate and loved unconditionally. The judges, visibly moved, awarded Champ and Buster the top prize, a giant trophy shaped like a fire hydrant and a year's supply of dog food. But the real reward was the outpouring of love and admiration from the crowd. People lined up to pet the dogs, to thank Lily for sharing their story, and to express their appreciation for the message of acceptance and compassion. As Lily walked home, trophy in hand and two tired but happy dogs by her side, she realized that the dog show wasn't just about winning a prize. It was about celebrating the unique beauty of every dog, regardless of their appearance. And it was about sharing their story, a story that had touched so many lives and reminded them of the power of love, loyalty, and second chances. The dog show marked a turning point. Champ and Buster, already local legends, became symbols of hope and acceptance in their community. Their story, shared through local news and social media, inspired countless families to open their homes and hearts to shelter animals, regardless of their imperfections. The local animal shelter saw a surge in adoptions, and the once overcrowded kennels were now filled with happy families finding their perfect, albeit sometimes unconventional, companions. Lily, now a teenager, continued to be an advocate for animal welfare. She volunteered at the shelter, walking dogs, socializing cats, and helping potential adopters find their perfect match. She even started a doggy day out program where she and her friends would take shelter dogs on hikes, to the beach, and even to the local nursing home, spreading joy and companionship wherever they went. Champ and Buster, though getting older, remained her constant companions. Their walks in the park were a bit slower, their naps a bit longer, but their love and loyalty never wavered. They were a familiar sight in their community, their presence a reminder of the power of compassion and second chances. One day, while browsing through old photo albums, Lily stumbled upon a picture of Buddy, their beloved golden retriever. A wave of sadness washed over her as she remembered their loyal companion, gone but not forgotten. She realized that it was Buddy's passing that had led them to Champ and Buster, and that, in a way, he had paved the way for this incredible journey. She showed the picture to her dad, who smiled wistfully. "He was a good boy, Buddy," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "But, you know, Lily Pad, I think he'd be proud of you. You've given so much love to those two misfits, and you've made a real difference in the world." Lily's heart swelled with pride. She knew that her dad was right. She had found her purpose in caring for these two extraordinary dogs, and in doing so, she had discovered a strength and compassion she never knew she possessed. Years passed, seasons changed, and life continued its inevitable cycle. Champ and Buster, their fur now streaked with gray, eventually crossed the Rainbow Bridge, leaving a void in their hearts that could never be filled. But their legacy lived on in the countless lives they had touched, in the families they had brought together, and in the message of love and acceptance they had spread. Lily, now a young woman, carried their memory with her, a reminder of the profound impact these two unconventional dogs had had on her life. She continued to advocate for animal welfare, her passion fueled by the love and loyalty of her two furry heroes. And as she looked back on their incredible journey, from the moment she first laid eyes on Champ in that dimly lit shelter corner, she knew that she had been blessed with the greatest gift of all: the unconditional love of two extraordinary dogs who had taught her the true meaning of family, compassion, and the enduring power of second chances.